Welcome back to YogaSteady Studio, an original hot yoga podcast for hot yoga teachers, longtime and new students, and especially skeptics. If you want to be challenged in your practice or you want to challenge the mystery behind the power of this practice, you are in the right place. I'm your host, Jennifer Rochelle, and today we're stepping outside the hot room for a moment. But don't worry, the mirror still comes with us. We're starting with a story from the art world. Recently, Alberto Giacometti's sculpture, Large Thin Head, a sleek, modernist piece by one of the most celebrated sculptors of the 20th century, was placed on auction at Sotheby's. The asking price? $70 million. And no one bought it. That's right. A piece by Giacometti, a name that usually pulls major collectors into a bidding war, failed to sell. And it wasn't because it wasn't beautiful. It wasn't because the artist lacked prestige. It was about something else entirely: perception, timing, and ego. Today we're asking, who decides what something is worth? What happens when we confuse value with visibility? And how does this relate to the way we see ourselves as yoga teachers, students, and human beings? Let's get into it. Let's talk about how this happened. When a piece of fine art is going to auction, especially one with a price tag in the tens of millions of dollars, there's usually a safety net in place. Auction houses like Sotheby's often recommend that the sellers secure what's called a guarantor, a prearranged buyer who agrees to purchase the piece if bidding doesn't meet the expected price. It's a way to protect value, hedge risk, and maintain prestige, even if the piece doesn't generate a bidding war. But in this case, the owners of Large Thin Head declined the guarantee. They took it to the auction block without a safety net. They believed, boldly, maybe even arrogantly, that someone would come forward and pay at least $70 million without hesitation. But no one did. And the result? The room froze. The lot closed. The sculpture went unsold, and suddenly the perceived value of the piece came into question, not just for that night, but for the legacy of the collection it came from. Now, was this a financial miscalculation? Probably, but it was also a very human moment, a moment where ego, confidence, reputation, and risk all collided in public view. And as I watched, I thought to myself, how different is that from what happens in the yoga world? To understand why this moment at Sotheby's mattered, let's back up and talk about the artist. Alberto Giacometti. Giacometti was one of the most influential sculptors of the 20th century. His work is instantly recognizable: long, narrow, almost spectral figures that seem caught between stillness and motion. They're lean, haunted, searching, like they're both ancient and modern at the same time. Sound familiar? After World War II, Giacometti's sculptures became a symbol of existentialism, that philosophical mood of uncertainty and alienation. He wasn't sculpting Greek gods. He was sculpting what it feels like to be human in a fractured, unpredictable world. So when you own a Giacometti, you don't just own a piece of bronze. You own a piece of 20th century thought, a relic of one of the great artistic minds. And that kind of legacy usually guarantees high value. The owners of Large Thin Head knew this. The piece came from the collection of the late real estate mogul and collector Sheldon Salo, a man whose taste and influence shaped part of the modern art world. So when it came time to sell, they didn't just believe the sculpture had value. They believed it had enough value to speak for itself. They didn't want a guarantor. They didn't want to hedge. They wanted the market to validate the worth of the piece, and perhaps the collector's legacy. But the thing is, value isn't about legacy. It's about timing, perception, humility, and how willing we are to let go of the outcome. And that's where the story begins to overlap with the yoga world. So how does a sculpture at Sotheby's connect to yoga teacher training? For years, there was one path to becoming an original hot yoga teacher: Bikram's teacher training. 9 weeks, in person, live lectures, dialogue memorization, and it came with a high ticket price, both financially and emotionally. Back then, it wasn't just a training, it was a rite of passage. If you wanted to teach in this lineage, you went through that training. And many of us who did, it shaped us. It tested us, it gave us tools and a sense of belonging. But I believe that part of what made the price so high was the ego behind it. Bikram was the gatekeeper. His name was the brand. His approval was the currency. And his refusal to accept feedback, just like the art collectors who didn't want a guarantee, eventually led to the collapse of the model he built. When allegations about abuse came to light, the community fractured. Studios were left to decide, do we protect the method or the man? And with that fracture, the once singular path to certification splintered. Now there are multiple ways to become an original hot yoga teacher. Some more affordable, some more accessible, but also less centralized, less known, and sometimes undervalued because they lack the legacy name. Just like large thin head, the sculpture with undeniable artistic weight, some of today's trainings are still rooted in something beautiful, but struggle to be seen as valuable because the old system taught us that the price equaled prestige, or the name equaled legitimacy, or the ego equaled excellence. But the market is changing. And just like in the art world, we're being asked to reevaluate where we place our trust and what we're actually paying for. In the art world, a piece doesn't have to be better to be famous. It just has to be seen. And in yoga, it's often the same. Visibility creates a glow around things. But authenticity, that's different. Authenticity shows up in small rooms, in long-term mentorship, in quiet consistency. It lives in teachers who are still studying, still listening, and still open to feedback. It lives in practices that stay simple, honest, and focused on the student. As the old systems fracture, we're being asked to reevaluate not just what we trust, but who we trust and why. And that means we need new tools for measuring value, not just price tags, not just follower counts, but integrity, depth, accountability, and presence. Because that's the kind of teacher and the kind of practice that sustains. Let's switch gears and turn to our dialogue. Today, I'm going to talk about Cobra Pose, Bhujangasana. Cobra Pose, Bhujangasana. Lie down on your stomach, chin on the floor. Get your hands under the shoulders, very close to your chest. Make sure, throughout the posture, 5 fingers together so your hands' palms are flat on the floor. Fingertips in line with the top of the shoulders, baby fingers in line with the deltoids. Glue it down. Distribute the body weight all over the hands' palms equally the same. Please don't move your hands. Start to finish, keep your feet and heels together and feet flat on the floor. You have only one leg, like a cobra. Don't open it. Leg muscles nice and tight. Hip muscles solid, concrete, one piece. Elbows touching the body, drop your shoulders down. Look up towards the ceiling. Inhale, breathing. Come up, please. Lift your upper body up using your 100% back strength. Come up halfway only until only your belly button is touching the floor. The rest of your upper body is in the air. At the same time, from the side, your elbows should be capital L, 90-degree angle, like a rectangle. Stretch your elbows down towards the hips, arms and elbows always touching the body to bring your shoulders down. Trapezius muscles visible in the front mirror. Now, chest up more. Everybody go up. Come up a couple of inches. Your back is supposed to hurt. Shoulders down, chest up, look up, come up, go up, more up, come up a little more, hold it there, freeze, and gently come down. Left ear on the towel, arms by your side, and relax. For the second set, hands palms flat on the floor, square, underneath the shoulders. Not too high, not too low. Not too far in, not too far out. Not turned in, not turned out. Keep your palms flat. This one is not just iconic, it's ancient. You'll find versions of Cobra carved into temple walls, etched into old texts, and folded into almost every lineage of Hatha Yoga. But in the world of the original Hatha Yoga, Cobra had an additional purpose. It was a test. Bikram used to watch Cobra the way an art dealer sizes up a painting's signature. If your Cobra was weak, if your arms weren't 90-degree angle, legs weren't locked, posture looked lazy, he didn't just call you out. He'd ask, who trained you? Who is your studio owner? Cobra became a litmus test for whether or not your teacher had trained you right. Because here's the thing, Cobra is kind of revealing. It shows how much you're faking it. It shows whether you're willing to really use your back instead of throwing yourself into a shape. It's not flashy. It's not complicated. And maybe that's exactly why it makes egos so uncomfortable. Because Cobra doesn't care how long you've been teaching or practicing. Cobra only cares if you are listening. So what does Giacometti, a failed auction, a $70 million price tag, and a scrappy little Cobra pose all have in common? They remind us that value isn't about ego. It's not about who shouts the loudest, who charges the most, or who gets the most attention. It's about what holds up over time, what is built with care, what's rooted in patience. The art world and the yoga world both have their share of spectacle, but when we strip away the ego, what's left? In teaching, it's our presence, our clarity, our willingness to keep learning. In our practice, it's the posture that humbles us every single time we try it. I want to share something personal. This week, I will be practicing in person for the first time since December 2024. And I'm nervous. I'm not nervous about the heat, maybe a little. I'm not necessarily nervous about the postures, a little bit standing head to knee. I am nervous, though, to be seen, to have a teacher watch me move and maybe offer feedback that I'm not expecting. After practicing alone for so long, the return to the room brings up all the ego stuff we've been talking about in this episode. It's one thing to talk about ego as a concept. It's quite a different thing to walk into a room, stand on my mat, and offer my practice to someone else to witness, unencumbered. I've even thought to myself, when I walk in, I need to say, oh, I'm struggling with an injury in my shoulder, which is true. Or I haven't been in the hot room for so long. But I feel like all of that is such nonsense. And what I really need to do is just walk into the studio, check in for my class, change, and then go get on my mat and just do my practice. So I'm asking you to think of me this week as I step into the hot room for the first time in almost 6 months. Starting June 8th, I'm adding something new to YogaSteady Studio, a summer segment where I visit and review in-person and virtual hot yoga studios. We'll begin with Bikram Yoga Paris. If you want to plan your travel around your practice, this segment will be for you. Let's explore the world one hot room at a time. Next week, we're stepping into strange territory. Meta's AI chatbots are being called the future of conversation. They're designed to talk to you like your favorite stars, remember your preferences, even flirt with you if that's what you're looking for. But here's the question. If it feels like connection, is it? In our next episode, we'll explore what this story says about our hunger to be seen and how yoga offers a radically different, often uncomfortable, but always real path to authentic relationships. It's going to be a good one. Make sure to tune in next week. Sources for today's episode come from the Wall Street Journal and Albert Giacometti's Foundation. Also, a few press releases from Sotheby's and Christie's. You'll find all of the sources and resources in the show notes. If you'd like to continue this conversation or train with me or study with me, you can always find me on all social media platforms at YogaSteady Studio or online at www.bikramyogastudy.com. Thanks for listening. I hope someday we'll get to meet in the hot room. Until then, stay steady, stay curious, and as always, lock your knee.